had a powerful conversation on break with one of the attendees in the training I was in. We was talking about opioid settlement dollars. And so before I even say what I'm finna to say, I'm gonna just let you know that, lived experience is what informs my opinions. And so lived experience with having family from rural areas that haven't quit yet because they hadn't got up out of there and they keep going back to the same old. Also, from my experience working at Neil Dobbins Center as a case manager and seeing people that was coming there, from a lot of times from the rural areas you dig, and most of the time, especially when I was working as a case manager, I was facilitating the discharge plan, and oftentimes the ones who were serious was always saying, I don't want to go back. There's no recovery resources there. I'm gonna go back to my old ways if I go back there. And then also running into my bros when I go speak at October Road CASP, which is a 10-week program, an amazing program for men, you dig? And so I got so many of my friends that went through that program. As a matter of fact, the director of Rancher Services at Operation Gateway went through October Road's 10-week program back in the day. But I mentioned that because there's a significant amount of people that go through there that be from other areas, and they say the same thing. They don't want to go back to where they from because there ain't no recovery resources. And so, what has this got to do with the opioid settlement? Well, I'm gonna tell you this. This is my take on it. I don't even think it should be county by counties. Some of it should be regional. You dig? And some of the decisions that's being made with the opioid settlement funds need to be multi-county in collaborations. Because if it's a rural area that ain't got no recovery resources, then they need to be thinking about linkage to care, which includes, having that money follow the person. So if they need to get a person relocated into treatment somewhere, they got funds to be able to help with that. You dig? Or they can focus on prevention, because prevention is a real thing. So I can understand how they could be focusing on, prevention efforts, but you can't just build a sober living, a recovery house in the area that don't have a recovery community, because the success of the residents of the recovery house is going to be dependent upon the recovery community. You know what I'm saying? And so you can't just go build a house anywhere and say, yeah, we just go use the money to go build houses. It don't work like that. You got to have a recovery community to even have a recovery house. And it can't just be people who are on the clock providing services, because anybody that's have worked in this field, that has worked as a counselor or discharge planner, towards the end of their treatment, we are recommended that they start going to meetings to have sustainability in their recovery. Because the professionals, you're going to have a relationship with your therapist and whoever else, but you're going to have a social network, because the opposite of addiction ain't recovery. The opposite of addiction is connection, because you can't have recovery if you ain't got connections. And so that's my 2 cents, as far as like the opioid settlement dollars. And so if you're a person that's from a rural area, or you in these rooms with folks that's talking about, the opioid settlement and what's needed in your respective areas, maybe they don't know what to do with it. And I'm gonna tell you, if it's a rural area that ain't got recovery resources, you need to be talking about linkage to care, because for the past, I'll say since 2020, it's been heavy getting people connected to halfway houses and stuff like that. Utilizing the funds that we had from, whether we talk about an ARC grant that I was running, or whether we talking about Voices of Appalachia, or whether we talk about OG, Inspire, or whatever, what we noticed was people from those rural counties needing to relocate because they didn't have the resources that they needed to be successful where they was from. Now, there's a limited few that I've seen that was from out there, and went back there for a little bit and made it without messing up, and then relocated again because they got to get a taste of not having the recovery resources. Yes, I've seen that, and I've also seen people go back out there and crash out. I've seen some people come to Asheville, do good, get on their feet, and then move back home to be closer to family. But even then, I got feedback from them, and them saying like they wish they could stay back in Asheville because it ain't the same. Now, I'm not trying to say that everybody need to live in Asheville, but what I will tell you is that Asheville is so recovery friendly that everybody building treatment centers, halfway houses, all kind of programs in Asheville because it's recovery friendly. So it must work for somebody. And it's not just people from rural North Carolina. There's people from all over the United States of America that be moving to Asheville to try to get their recovery journey started. So keep this in mind as you talk about opioid settlement funds, because like I'm a person in long-term recovery. My recovery date is January the 16th, 2009. And before I was working in the field, I was sitting in circles. I was sitting in basement of churches with people who was trying to get their life right. That may have got bust over in one of the treatment centers. What they call them, druggy buggies? You ever heard them call them drug? Y'all ain't never rode no druggy buggy, bro. You ain't about that life, bro. You know what I'm saying? But like maybe they ran into somebody there and then hear their stories, because you know how we do. The most important person at a meeting is the person who is still suffering. You know what I'm saying? Newcomers are very important. And so oftentimes I would be intentional about meeting newcomers, especially the ones that was at treatment centers, and would find out where they was from, and same effect. So there's that. Now you take that and you tell whoever you need to tell, especially if you're a person who is genuinely concerned for your community. If you are really concerned for people to reach recovery, then you better have linkage to Care Dollars. And if you want some advice on how that can work, holler at your boy, and I will gladly empower you with information. Bless up.